Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, right here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meany hanging out with you. Thanks, as always, for taking the time to hang out. If you're hanging out here live on the Twitter machine, on our YouTube page, please smash the like button. You have any questions throughout the show, we will get to them here today. I already see Timothy Jones hanging out with us as Matt Jones's dad in the house, looking for some NHL info. All right, giddy up. We will talk a little hockey here later on. There's 11 games on the ice tonight. I got some picks, some props, some parlays. Yeah, a lot of action in the NHL. I have, I don't know, man, like a lot of bets over at ftnbets.com. There's a good dozen shot props that I like here today, but I broke it all down with Eric Young, the Eric Young, you know, the guy in the ring who's a fantasy hockey psycho, a free show, Dangle, Bet, Selly, powered by FTN. It is free twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week here in the near future, but you can listen your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you do listen to podcasts, also free over at ftnbets.com. So we broke down everything in the NHL, but I will share my favorite picks with you in a little bit. It is Shohei Ohtani Day. That's right. The MVP will be announced today. We had the Cy Young Award winners announced yesterday and hit Corbin Burns at 30-1. So pretty happy about that. A shout out to Josh Gross of FTN who hit him at 45-1. A fantastic season from Corbin Burns. And as you are well aware, we've talked about it a couple times on this show, Shohei Ohtani at 50-1 MVP has been in the bet trackers since before the season started. So pretty stoked. Hopefully he does get that award. It's no shots at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., a fantastic season as well. And, you know, any other year, probably the MVP, but something that we haven't seen in the history of baseball. Really, I mean, I haven't. Most likely you haven't. You hear stories about Babe Ruth and what he was able to do at times. But Shohei, man, my goodness, what a season from him. We won't get ahead of ourselves, but I do believe it will be indeed Shohei Ohtani Day in Major League Baseball. And this is a reminder that the betting package over at ftnbets.com/pricing, you can get the betting package for $49.99 per month. Hang out with us, as you see there. Use the promo code FTNTV for 15% off. Just hang out for a month if you want, and then you could re-up in the second month, and you could still use that promo code FTNTV. It includes a lot of tools. You got picks across every sport. I mentioned Josh Gross. He's unbelievable in terms of tennis, NBA. Of course, baseball is gone, but NFL as well. We have guys giving PGA picks. We have guys giving esports picks. We have everything over at FTNBets.com. It's all there for you for $49.99 per month. So we can tee up what we're going to talk about here today with our guy Gilles Gallant. He's going to stop by in just a little bit. We are going to talk, of course, Thursday Night Football, and he is a sharp mind as well. So if you have the betting package, you get all of his picks, and he goes seeking for dogs. Of course, you're probably familiar with his Dog Day afternoon show over at Bets TV and Touchdown Town. It is New England and Atlanta here this evening. The Pats are 6.5-point favorites. Depending on where you look, you can see 7. I like the 6.5. I think they're going to win today by a touchdown, and the total's at 47. I don't think we see a lot of points from this Atlanta side. I know Tino said he feels a little weird about this game. We were talking a little bit before we got on here, thinking that maybe Atlanta could cover, and it's possible. I mean, everybody's down on the Falcons after last week's debacle, I guess, from everybody inside the Atlanta Falcons offense. And Arthur Smith, head coach of the Falcons, said today that he said, I think it was last night, but I read it this morning, that the only reason Wayne Gallman got all that play was because they were just out of it. Of course, they threw in Josh Rosen, and then Wayne Gallman got a lot of play. But, man, I think Wayne Gallman's a good running back. I think he's better than Mike Davis. You know, last year with the Giants, I thought he had a lot of productive games and was kind of treated like a bell cow back, catching balls out of the backfield. He had 15 carries for 55 yards last week against Dallas. I know that, you know, that game was out of hand and, you know, some softer matchups. Guys are resting. They're not playing every down on the defensive side of things for the Cowboys in that game. But what has Mike Davis given Atlanta? Nothing. This guy hasn't given them anything all year. He's been absolutely brutal. So why wouldn't they give Wayne Gallman a little bit more run? I'm not seeing anything from a prop. I got a bunch of props here that I like. And I got some picks, of course, towards the end, but we will call some touchdowns. Wayne Gallman plus 210 to score a touchdown. I don't love that, but I'm not seeing anything for like receiving yards because I think he can catch a pass or two out of the backfield. He had a 21-yard catch last week. I'm gonna have my eye on him because we don't know the status of Cordero Patterson. He's questionable to play. I don't think he's gonna play. There were some reports earlier in the week that is a week-to-week thing. That doesn't sound like a week-to-week thing because he was practicing in a limited role here this week. But I do believe he will sit, but I'm not a doctor. I don't want to speculate, but we'll keep an eye on Wayne Gallman and everything. We do know that Damien Harris is going to play. He missed last week due to a concussion. He's out of concussion protocol. He is good to go here. His rushing yard prop is at 51.5. Last night when I was giving the picks to George, there was nothing really on the New England side, either side for running backs. There's just nothing because with the two backs, they're questionable. But Damien Harris is going to be active. His rushing prop is at 51.5. I think he hits it. I think he gets there. I think he kind of gets his role back. You know, from my history of watching the NFL, and I don't have the numbers here to really back this up, is it's pretty rare for, you know, a starter to lose their job because of an injury or a concussion. You know, Romandre Stevenson looked great last week. He was phenomenal. He topped 100 yards on the ground. He had like 20 carries. He caught a couple passes. I think he had 4 catches, 20 carries. He was great. His rushing yard prop is at 35.5. I think both guys get there. This is a team that wants to run the football. We'll talk about Mac Jones in a little bit. His passing yard pops at like 251. He's been under that in 3 straight, 5 of 7. If you look at Pat's games where they win by more than a touchdown, I think 4 of the 5, he's been under 30 passing attempts. So I think they're going to continue to run here. I don't expect Atlanta to do a whole lot on offense. You know, this Pat's defense is phenomenal. And over the last 4 weeks, I got this written down on my little fancy yellow pad here. Over the last 4 weeks, I know I'm old school, New England, 4-0 straight up and against the spread. It's number 1 in the NFL. 37.5 points per game, number 1 in the NFL. Opposing points per game, 12.5. 12.5. That's number 4 in the NFL. And points differential over the last 4 weeks, plus 25. And you guessed it, that is number 1 in the NFL. Pats are for real. Pats are good. They're legitimate. We've talked about that a lot on this show. Tino joined us the other day. We talked about Super Bowl odds. We're going to talk a little bit about Super Bowl odds and MVP odds, as well as call some touchdowns with Gallant here in just a little bit. But the Pats are good, man. They can bring it on defense. They spent a lot of money in the offseason. They have a capable quarterback who's looked really good as well, and he's starting to get into a bit of a rhythm, feeling himself a little bit. The accuracy's always been in there. They're running the play action. They're running the football. They're playing really good football in New England. They've smoked a lot of good teams, man. They went into LA and beat the Chargers when nobody was really giving them any credit. I know a lot of people were picking the Browns, myself included. I thought the Browns would hang around in that game. That wasn't a contest at all last week. So New England looking pretty good despite on the road here and touchdown favorites. All right, from an injury standpoint, again, the big day is tomorrow. We will talk about it tomorrow, but I'm seeing just a little bit of stuff here. I mentioned Harris, how he's good to go. Allen Robinson didn't practice yesterday. Allen Lazard didn't practice yesterday. Marquise Brown didn't practice yesterday. Aaron Rodgers didn't either, but he talked about how it was just basically a therapy day. So I think, he's going to be good to go and he's going to be able to play in this game. There was a report that came down about Derrick Henry. Of course, you're not going to be with him this week, but there's some optimism according to ESPN that he will return early January. So that could be anywhere from week 17 to 18. He's not a drop. If Henry was active week 17, your fantasy football championship, you would play this guy, but just stash him if you can on IR. The rest of the NFL news we will keep an eye on throughout. If anything does break on this show, if you have any starter sit questions, all that stuff, we will address it on this show. And Chase Claypool got a limited practice in on Wednesday. Again, there was multiple reports that he was going to be week to week, so he could be okay. Jason Prince in the house, meaning in the building. Keep up the good content. Mean Streets rule. Appreciate that. That's awesome. I never know what people think about the show if I'm just sitting here blabbing away. We'll bring on a sharp mind. It's Gilles Gallant. He's going to join us next. We're going to talk about this game here tonight, and we're going to talk about some Super Bowl odds as well as some MVP odds. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Keep her locked. Gilles Gallant, what's up, dude? Welcome in. This is Mean Streets live on Game Plus Network. Those hanging out on the Twitter machine, hanging out with us. You have any questions for Mr. Gallant, leave them there. Maybe some touchdown questions, maybe some little sneak peek into Sunday. We will talk a little MVP and Super Bowl as well. It is Pats and Falcons here this evening. As always, Joel joins us on Mean Streets, and you can catch a lot of his work over at FTN, of course, his bets, and two shows he has over at Bets TV. By the way, betstv.com, new website for you to check out Touchdown Town and Dog Day Afternoon, G-Dog 5000. What's up, sir?
It's good to be here, man. For people who might not know, obviously Meanie's an Eagles fan, and I'm a Cowboys fan. We got pretty heated yesterday in the thread. It was getting a little big brother, little brother. I kind of liked it.
That's right. Sneak peek. Jill and I will be with you next Thursday. We're going to have a Thanksgiving breakdown of the 3 football games. And of course, as the 2 Canadians at the company, we will be taking the reins for that show and calling some touchdowns. Yeah, it was fun. We will have VO in there. A shout out to VO. Everybody at Anthem Sports Entertainment very familiar with what VO can bring to the table. He's going to help us produce that show. So the 3 Canadians, and it is the 2 Cowboys, you guys, and Josh Kalachi was in on the Slack channel as well as the other Eagles fan. But yeah, we had some fun. I mean, it's Cowboys, right? It's America's team. You got to play Thursday night football, or you got it. Thanksgiving.
Friendly banter, right? Like, I mean, I think that's the thing too, is that like I was trying to like almost kind of say to people that like I'm sorry that I had a spoiled childhood. Like I'm sorry that I got to watch my team win 3 Super Bowls in 3 years when I was a young kid. I'm sorry that happened. You know what I mean? But that's the way it is, and it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but listen, the Cowboys look absolutely phenomenal. If we're comparing between the 2 teams, I don't think there's really a debate on which team does look the best. But it was funny when VO was bringing, I don't know if it was you or VO that were putting in the recent Cowboys games on Thursday. Just happened to leave that Eagles one out there when Mark Sanchez went into Dallas and won that one. So I get it. I understand it. Before we get into touchdowns, what do you think of this game? We have New England here, 6.5-point favorites, 7-point favorites, wherever it is that you shop around. Again, FTNBets.com. Free parlay calculator and prop shop. You got 7 here. I think DK's offering 6.5, minus 250, a little bit much there. Atlanta plus 240, and the over under is at 47. You can see 47 in some spots here too. New England over the last 4 weeks, I don't know if you caught this off the top, but 4-0 straight up and against the spread, number 1 in football, 37 points per game, number 1, opposing points per game, 12.5, number 4, and point differential plus 25 is number 1. This team's playing really good football, man.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that kind of threw me off is I was watching the look-ahead lines for this game, and initially it was at 3.5 or 4, depending on the book. So I was like, okay, that seems fair. And then that ass kicking to the Browns, and then obviously the Falcons pretty much. I mean, yes, they put up a field goal, but like they were pretty much shut down completely. So then you saw the line explode to 7. And to be honest, I feel like that's a little bit of an overreaction. Like I'm not saying that the Patriots can't win by 7 points, but I feel like from a look-ahead line standpoint and just like an actual spread to feel like I got 50-50 shot on both sides, 7 points is too much. Like even for me, like just looking at where the Patriots have been in this position already, I think they were favored by 8 points, for example, against the Texans, and just barely won that game, like 25-22. Yeah. I'm not saying that the Texans, should have won the game or anything like that. I'm just saying I feel like 7 points is a lot, especially for a rookie quarterback, even as good as they've looked over the last month. Falcons playing at home on primetime. Maybe not as bad as that Cowboys game would indicate. So that's just for me, if I'm playing it, it's basically a Falcons plus 7 or I won't play it.
Or you won't? Yeah, I think Tino's on the same page as you. It's tough in these Thursday night football games. You got a team on the road, right? Short week and favored by a touchdown. You know what? They probably should have lost that game against the Texans. Houston played really good. Davis Mills threw all over them. And I was thinking at that point that New England wasn't that great. I mean, but it's been the complete switch since then, a big turnaround. Tino joins us. Today's episode of Mean Streets is brought to you by the NFC East, like it is every single week. Dude, we're not talking Giants, okay? That's it. We're not talking Giants. What do you got from us from, a touchdown? What's your favorite touchdown prop on the board today?
Sure. Yeah. My favorite touchdown prop right now is Jacoby Myers at plus 200. That's available at BetMGM. He leads the team in targets and snaps played, as well as just for the position as well. Like he finally caught his first touchdown last week. So, that stigma of, when's he going to do it? All that kind of stuff. That's off the shoulders. So now I think he can play a little bit more free. as well as the Falcons defense. Like, I mean, there's different points of the Falcons, both through the run against the tight ends or against wide receivers. They're getting kind of exposed by everybody. But for me, they've been really getting exposed by wide receivers. 13 touchdowns allowed to wide receivers this season. That's 29th in the NFL, and they've only played 9 games. The teams that are ahead of them, like, for example, the Colts, like, who have allowed 14, they played 10 games, for example. So this very well could be the worst kind of like pass defense in the NFL when it comes to wide receivers. And for myself, I find it difficult to find value with the Patriots right now. Like, I wasn't going to really feel good about betting on Damian Harris or Romandre Stevenson, maybe Brandon Bolden. But again, this is kind of one of those things about the Patriots. I'm still not convinced that everybody knows what the Patriots are going to do with running backs. I mean, that's pretty much been the overarching story about Patriots drafting them in general, like whether it be for fantasy or betting them, that you never know week to week who it's going to be. So really, outside of Hunter Henry, I really feel like it's a bit of a crapshoot. Now, most books, they have Hunter Henry around plus 140, plus 150. You might be able, if you can get it at plus 200 or more, of course, take it. But I just feel like I feel trusting in knowing that I have the wide receiver that has the most targets per game on the team, nearly 30 more targets than the next guy, than like Nelson Aguilar, for example. So at plus 200, I'm going to take that from BetMGM, Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, Hunter Henry over at FanDuel, you can get plus 195. I do like that. I mean, at some point, maybe he's not going to score a touchdown every game, but he does have 7 in his last 7. He leads the team in red zone targets. He's got 10. He's got 6 inside the 10. It just seems like when they get in that point of the field, inside the 5 or the 10, they're either running it with one of those two backs, mostly Harris, or throwing it to Henry. It's crazy. And Mac Jones sits on the bench, and it's like he's a young kid, but he sits there. I don't know if you saw, like, they have this little thing where they just both giggle on the bench with each other. Like, Henry and Mac Jones are like, oh my God, like, we did it again. You were wide open again. Like, how does, like, people are not preparing for this. The only time I throw the football in the red zone is to you. Have you been following Jacoby Myers' props? Like, I don't know how often you get involved with New England. I don't feel like I get there. I wonder if it changed a little bit because he finally found the end zone last week.
It not really, to be honest. That was the one thing that shocked me, is that his odds have pretty much remained the same. What's been funny about the Patriots is that they, and at least odds makers' perspective, they're seeing the same stats I am, like as far as his snap counts, routes run, targets, all that stuff. But he's always been around the plus 140 to plus 190 range, but has never been.
Which is weird because he's never scored touchdowns.
And so after he scores his first one, then they put it back up to plus 200. I'm like, okay, well, this is an odds play immediately just for me because just based on the volume of work. Now, from a yardage standpoint or even reception standpoint, you're not getting really a lot of value because more often than not, it's set at like over under 5.5 receptions. You're probably getting minus odds for the over. So a lot of the time it hasn't really been too fun to bet on Jacoby Myers props, but against this defense, and it just, let's just say hypothetically, the Patriots get down a couple of scores. They're going to have to throw the ball. Like, you can't just keep running Damian Harris into the line down 2 or 3 scores. Now, again, that seems far-fetched, but again, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And if that does happen, I would rather have a wide receiver than banking on somebody like Romandre Stevenson or JJ Taylor.
Right. No, I think that's fair. Do you have a Falcon that you like? I think this is interesting here today. I mean, if you're New England and Bill Belichick, you hear it all the time. I mean, they take away the opposing team's best player. I'd imagine they're going to bracket Kyle Pitts, double him, triple him at times. I mean, he's lining out wide more than any tight end this season. There's lots of different things that they could do with him. Is there like a Falcon long shot that you have your eye on or anything? I mean,
I got a mid-tier guy and a long shot guy. So the mid-tier guy is Russell Gage. I think for myself, getting him at plus 390 at FanDuel, I thought was great odds, especially because even with Calvin Ridley in the lineup or out, playing at home this year, he has a very small sample size because he's only played 5 games this year. But in all the games at home so far, he's been around the plus 200 to plus 250 range to score. So if I'm getting him all the way up to almost plus 400, yes, I know the Patriots defense has actually been pretty strong this year, but if you actually look deep into where the Patriots have been scored on this season, it's actually been mostly by the wide receiver position. If you look at all the different positions that they give up touchdowns to, wide receiver is the most with 9 touchdowns this year to the position, whereas running backs, it's like less than 5. Tight end, I think they've allowed 1 touchdown this year, you know what I mean, to a tight end, or maybe 2 at the most. So again, it's just difficult to kind of envision where they're going to be prone to being scored on. So that's why Russell Gage, for me, I prefer him over like Olamide Zaccheaus pardon the pronunciation. Again, I'm not really 100% certain how to pronounce his last name. It's Zacchaeus.
I think you nailed it. You did a lot better than what I did last week. We'll say that.
Well, I think the end of the day, like if he scores, then I'm going to have to learn his pronunciation because that's going to be his 4th touchdown of the year if he does score. So whereas Russell has only scored once, I just think if I have to bet on these two, especially when Zacchaeus, I believe, is getting like plus 250, maybe plus 300 at the most, I'm going to take Gage because, again, he is more of their deep threat. He looked good against the Cowboys, but once he dropped that 3rd down ball against them, they stopped looking to him and they were out of it before the end of the first quarter. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of the Falcons weren't really trying much. I mean, I'm pretty sure they trotted out Josh Rosen by the 4th quarter just because they were just like, this game is over.
Yeah, this game is over. I do have a Zacchaeus prop, but I think it's a catch prop I do have because what you talked about against the tight end position, they have been phenomenal. It's 2 tight ends have touchdowns. One last week was Austin Hooper. The other one was Blake Jarwin. He got 1 ball for 1 yard.
Right,
from
1 yard line against the Cowboys. I remember that.
There's only one tight end that has more than 29 yards against them this season, and it's your guy Dalton Schultz, who had 79. Everybody else, like Hooper 25, Cook 25, Ryan Griffin 15, Farrah Brown had 22, Cameron Braid had 29. So they've been just so amazing against tight ends, and that's definitely going to be the game point for Bill Belichick and this defense is just take Kyle Pitts. So I know there's definitely like Gage and Zacchaeus, like both of these guys are certainly interesting, not just from a touchdown standpoint, but maybe like catches. Like I think Matt Ryan's going to have to throw to one of these 2 guys to move the ball on offense. What's the other one you have? You have a.
Well, I was going to say, like you said off the top of the show, we don't know what's going to happen with Cordero Patterson. Is he going to play? If not, like I can't wait until kickoff to bet on him. And then even then, he's probably going to be less than plus 200. So, and then Mike Davis, what has he done all year? Like I haven't seen anything for him to be able to justify betting on him. And I think he's less than plus 200 himself. So it's like, no. Like when I'm betting touchdown scores, I like to have at least a little bit of a track record of that you've gotten into the end zone. Now I know obviously we could talk about Mike Davis's year in Carolina last year, but he hasn't really done anything for the Falcons this season. And so as a result, I want to do a long shot bet for this game. Lee Smith at plus 800 is the guy with the Atlanta Falcons.
Nice.
Here's why, man. So Hayden Hurst got ruled. So my initial bet, the guy that I wanted to take, he was going to be my long shot. I initially locked him in at plus 550. I was like, all right, Hayden Hurst is going to be the guy because they're going to go all over Kyle Pitts, and maybe he's going to have to be in the game for blocking, and then he'll be able to sneak out for a quick touchdown in the red zone. Well, he gets ruled out. I'm like, okay, well, who's vaulting into tight end 2? Oh, right, it's Lee Smith. And then I forgot all about all the times that I used to bet on him when he would be like plus 2,000 and plus 1,200, like for all these times. Because Lee Smith has got 11 red zone touchdowns in his career. And just let me double check. Yeah, 7 red zone touchdowns over the last 4 seasons. And he caught one last year against the Patriots with the Buffalo Bills. They're all like 1 yard touchdowns. A lot of the time when he catches his touchdown, it's always the funniest one because I always think it's an offensive lineman because he's so big that I'm like, oh, and then they're like, Lee Smith. And I'm like, oh, Lee, or Lee effing Smith is what my buddies and we used to call him as well. So, because he always gets these 1 yard touchdowns like that are basically like a 3rd down, scramble, like just like a quick little hitch route, just grabs it. And you're just like, where did that guy come from? Well, this is the time. If I'm going to grab him, I'm going to grab him at plus 800 for a long shot bet from DraftKings.
I am here for these kind of calls. Yes. I mean, why not? 8-1 for that. I mean, it does make a lot of sense too, right? George joins us, says GOAT times 2. Mark Carr also in here in the chat for his RB2. Would you play Wayne Gallman or take a shot on Dearness Johnson? That's tough. I think Nick Chubb's still in COVID protocol, right?
He is. Him and Felton.
So him and Felton, maybe you just maybe you hang on and you wait it out and you don't play Gallman because Arthur Smith said something today or last night that just Wayne Gallman really got that run. What you had said because Rosen got that run and the game was out of hand. I would expect him to get involved, especially if Cordero Patterson is not around, just because of what we've been talking about. Mike Davis hasn't given them anything. But this matchup here for Cleveland against Detroit is really good. So if Chubb doesn't play, you're going to have Dearness Johnson as like a rock-solid top 10 running back. So I would wait this out. If Patterson doesn't play, I mean, you could roll the dice on Wayne Gallman, maybe get a couple opportunities for you. But I would myself personally, I would wait it out. If Chubb doesn't play, Dearness Johnson, and even if Chubb plays, Dearness Johnson may get a handful of carries anyways against that Lions team. I mean, dude, you're the one up at the top of you and I are playing each other in one of the FTN leagues. I mean, you're up at the top. Maybe you want to answer this question. You're in first place.
What I would say to him is I would probably go with Dearness because the Lions are, if not the worst, the second last in allowing touchdowns to running backs, both via the pass and the rush. And it's one of those things that I actually feel like even if Chubb does play, there's enough for everybody to eat. And it's one of those games where, let's say they get out of hand and they're up 28-0 at half, or whatever reason, or just are running down their throats. Like, Chubb's not going to rush for it every time. Now, this is what I justified to myself in the game before, not against the Patriots, the one that they played before. I bet on Dearness Johnson to score, and he didn't get any touches because Nick Chubb just went crazy and had like a 75-yard touchdown, a 20-yard touchdown, and made me look like an idiot. But at the same time, one of the things that I was tracking going into that game was, I believe, so that would have been the 9th game. Of the 9 games that they had played, a backup running back, Kareem Hunt, scored a touchdown in 7 of them. So again, it was one of those things that, like, when Chubb and Kareem Hunt are out there, the backup running back has been able to eat on that team pretty much all season. So I would probably still stick with Dearness Johnson over Wayne Gallman, just because I think even against this defense, I don't really know how much Gallman's going to be able to do, even if he has the opportunity.
Yes, I agree with that. So hopefully we answered your question there. Dearness Johnson. And you know what? Baker's in a lot of pain. It's no secret that they want to run the football there, and they just may use both running backs, right? I mean, you fall into the end zone. Dearness Johnson falls into the end zone, gets maybe a little bit more play in the fourth quarter, and you'll be loving it. Jill, hang around one more segment, dude. I want to get your thoughts on Super Bowl odds and MVP odds as well. We talked a little bit about it yesterday with Tino, but I'd love to get your thoughts as well. So stick around, one more segment here on Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I don't know if you see in the comments, we got our guy 3 putts for par, George. Let's see an Eagles-Cowboys argument go. We already there was no argument. I just kind of forfeited it. Like, Cowboys are better. It is what it is. I've accepted
historically, we're better. Recently, absolutely not. We have nothing to brag about since 1996 or 95, rather.
Sure.
Sorry.
We were into the Slack channel. We were going back and forth, and you had brought up a game, I think, where the Cowboys beat the Eagles at the end, and then they made the playoff. I was at that game at the link. Where they smashed them with the Cowboys buddy, and there's a picture of me just like, no, and then my one buddy is just like throwing up the X, like there was a big Desi touchdown, and the Eagles needed to get that win to get in. And then Tino gives a good question. Was T.O. better as an Eagle or a Cowboy? I think he was better as a 49er, but man, he was better as a Cowboy than an Eagle.
Yeah, I think statistically he was better as a Cowboy, but he had the better, in my opinion, better season, because that first 8 games that he played before he pretty much broke his ankle the Super Bowl year was unstoppable. Like, I mean, that was the year, that was like one of the first years I ever played fantasy football, and he was like my first round pick, and he was just destroying. Like, I still remember going against Baltimore, which at that time was still probably a top 5 defense in the league, and him just shredding the secondary, like pushing Ed Reed down kind of thing. So at his time, physically, he was still probably more of a beast as an Eagle. But once he got to the Cowboys, a couple good years. But again, he had so many drops. Like, again, I don't really like to talk about T.O. as a Cowboy. I don't really think about him that way. I always think about him as a 49er, crying, catching that touchdown against the Packers. And I haven't really thought about what T.O. does since then.
Listen, a couple memories. You bring up 2004. I mean, he played in that Super Bowl with one leg, and he was unbelievable against the Pats. You and I both went to King's Tech. We both took a radio and television program in Nova Scotia. My first TV experience was that year, a round table talking about that Super Bowl, and I nailed the score. I was just on the wrong side. I had the Eagles to win by 3 and the Pats won by 3. It still just pains me to this day, that game. But yeah, I mean, T.O. was phenomenal, and it's kind of why I like the Eagles. Not altogether, but my old man's a Niners fan. And that brings a memory to me as well when Green Bay and San Fran were playing and we had Favre and Young and they're going back and forth. And T.O. had that catch at the end of the game as a young buck. And he had phenomenal seasons. I got his numbers up here now. I know we're a little off track, but he had 2 1,400-yard seasons with the Niners. He had another 1,300-yard one. He had 1,200 in 2004, which you alluded to, the Eagles. He missed 2 games. He played 7 in 2005, had 760. But he had 1,000 yards in each of his 3 seasons with Dallas. And these are where the touchdowns came, 13, 15, and 10. Tino says he remembers him as a Bill. I really forget about his Bills days. It was one season. Big Bengal too.
Jesus, bring him out.
Bring him out. Yeah, bring him out. Okay, Super Bowl odds. That's my quarterback. Yeah, that's a good moment. Super Bowl odds. Here we go. Bills are favored. I get the Cowboys there, 8-1. Packers plus 850. The Rams 8-1. The Cardinals are at 11-1. The Chiefs 11-1. The Titans, arguably the best team in football, get no respect here at 12-1. The Pats are at 25-1. The Chargers not on this board, also at 25-1. Dude, we gave Chiefs yesterday. I know their defense is like not great, but man, don't you think they have the easiest path? Like, there's a lot of great teams in the NFC.
Well, not only do they have the easiest path, but you're getting them at a buy high situation here because they opened up as the favorite. They were like plus 500, plus 600 to win the Super Bowl, are now leading their division. I think at this point they could easily ring off probably 3 to 4 wins, like especially like if they beat the Cowboys this weekend. People are going to immediately forget everything that we saw in the first 8 games and be like, the Chiefs are back. Like there's already people doing the Chiefs are back routine. I'm one of them. You know what I mean? Specifically when it comes to the MVP case.
Yeah, well, let's bring up the MVP. Mahomes. Again, this is another guy who, if you bet him at the start of the season, there's really no value in there. And then all of a sudden he's coming off his best game of the season and he has 5 touchdowns and 400 passing yards. So you see Mahomes here at 16-1. By the way, this is at DraftKings. I always give the prop shop because why wouldn't you? It's like Google machine over at ftnbets.com. It's free and you just go like this, Patrick Mahomes, type him in, MVP. Oh my goodness, he's 16-1 everywhere, but he's 25-1 at BetMGM. What a difference, right? That's terrific value as well. I guess we can say the same thing. As we just said.
Well, my favorite thing about this game, if you are betting the MVP market, is now if you think Patrick Mahomes is going to win MVP, you bet him now. Technically you could have bet him last week at even better odds. Like I think I saw him as high as like plus 3,000 at some books. But This is the week because this is going to be the narrative type of game. Like especially if he comes out at home, puts up 3 touchdowns, 350 yards, and they just dog walk the Cowboys. They're going to say that Mahomes is back, and he's automatically going to probably jump up to being the favorite, or at least the second favorite, because if you look at the top candidates there of Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, you ring off all these quarterbacks, they all kind of have little warts, like, you know what I mean? That like you could say like, oh, they're not worthy of winning the MVP, or they have these ugly appearances like Josh Allen, as good as he's been, you just can point to the Steelers game or point to the Jaguars game or just point to how many interceptions he already has this year, which is more than he had all of last year. Tom Brady, same thing. He leads the league in passing touchdowns, but again, the couple of games of just kind of looking mortal, and now his odds are dropping. Kyler Murray was, I know that you have him as a MVP bet. Like he was at plus 300 at one point. He's back up to like 15-1. So for me, like right now, Tom Brady, I think still is, if I had to pick amongst the top guys, like Tom Brady, I think still can have the type of path to be able to get the MVP just because of he'll have the numbers and they'll be one of the top teams in the NFC. But from a Super Bowl perspective, I actually think the Packers at plus 850, and now we didn't get the best value, but I think that might be the best bet right now because, man, like Aaron Rodgers, like they were like a couple of plays away from getting to the Super Bowl last year, and their defense without Jair Alexander and Kevin King in and out, but the the Preston and Zadarius Smith were both kind of in and out of the lineup all year. Their defense, like, I have to give them credit now. I for 2 games straight, I was basically like, it's just a mirage. And then they did it again this past weekend, and they're shorthanded. They're still being able to kind of find to win games. Like Aaron Jones is going to be out for only a couple of weeks. Even then, AJ Dillon looks incredible. I would be looking them hard to basically get out of the NFC Championship and finally get to the Super Bowl. And once you get them there, I really don't think who they play in the AFC. I don't think it really matters. I think the Packers will be favored in that game.
Yeah, when we talked yesterday with Tino, we basically said the same thing about their defense. I was with you. I didn't really believe in it, but they are playing really well. And the fact that they're playing so good without Jair Alexander is a huge plus. I mean, Russell Wilson, even finger or not, 0 points is something
they don't get shut out
before. Never. And they kind of held him in check. And there was nothing for Russell Wilson besides Gerald Everett in that game. And you know what? As much as the NFC is my feeling with the NFC, it's hard to kind of pick one team. I do feel like the Bucs full health. I think like I would give them the benefit of the doubt if they were at full health. But the path to the Super Bowl, if it has to go through Lambeau, that's a huge positive for the Packers. I mean, as everybody knows, it's a tough place to go play football. It's very cold there, and Rodgers is very familiar. And a lot of success playing home playoff games. As you know, we got to get out of here. But if Dak and the boys crush the Chiefs, that's also your time to get on Dak too, right? Like, it's both ways.
Same thing. Like right now, I think he's a plus 800 or plus 700, depending on the book. This is really like both of these guys, in my opinion, this is your last opportunity to bet them, because no matter what happens in this game, the narrative is going to come back that it was either their reason for that they won the game or they were at fault for losing the game, kind of thing. So if Dak has an MVP candidacy run, if it's going to be in this game, he's got to win. If he loses, they'll say that it was Dak's fault. He's not going to win. Same thing for Mahomes. This is like the last opportunity you have to bet him, where you can get him at probably the best odds you could.
Yeah, I got him in the tracker at 25-1 from yesterday. I have a Kyler at 23-1 and Stafford at 8-1, dude, that I felt real good about a few weeks ago, and I don't. I know things change quickly. I don't want to overreact, but the Rams, what I've seen from them the past couple weeks, it's not just losing Robert Woods. Offensive line doesn't look all that great either, and a lot of pressures, and they're not really running the football all that well, but we got to get out. Tino says, Packers love to lose in the NFC Championship more than Tom Brady loves to win the Super Bowl. George Z, my man, won an Oscar for that performance, Tino. I love these guys hanging out with us. Jill, always a pleasure, dude. Thanks for taking the time as you do every Thursday. Really looking forward to the Thanksgiving Thursday slate to talk some football with you. Check out Jill on Twitter, DDog5, GDog5000, and of course, Touchdown Town and Dog Day Afternoon over at Bets TV. Always a pleasure, sir. Good luck tonight, and we'll have more props here on the way out, some NHL and some football props. Keep her locked. Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I just keep, throughout the break there, I was just looking at TO numbers, man. It really does bring me back. I probably should be a Niners fan because, like I said, my old man was just loving the 49ers. There was so much success. The Niners kept winning all the time. And I'm sure that's why, Jill, and he talks about the Cowboys and them winning. I have a few Cowboys buddies too. Like, they just grew up winning. It was like the Canadians, right? Montreal in hockey. I mean, just surrounded around wins. It's easy to root for that team and cheer for them. But I just didn't want to go another way. When TO left San Fran, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go with the Eagles here. But I did like Don McNabb coming out of the draft as well. But, man, they had some great players. I mean, that 2014, I'm getting sidetracked here. But, man, I was just looking at T.O.'s numbers. Like, that guy, absolute baller, man. Such a stud. Okay, this is what I'm thinking here for tonight for NFL props. I think the Pats win this game. I know, Thursday night, short week, Falcons on the road. I know, whatever. I just haven't seen anything from Atlanta, and I'm just really impressed with this New England team. I think the under. What I think is that they just run the football here. They run it down their throats. They play good defense. I am a little nervous that they could just blow them out and this total. But again, a short week here. I know it seems like a lot of people are kind of on the side of the Falcons and the points, but I think that they win by a touchdown. But these props, all these props I really do like. Hunter Henry, we talked about him. Just shop around, see where you can get him at. Plus 195 I see over at FanDuel for a guy who has 7 touchdowns in his last 7 games. He has 10 red zone targets, which leads the way for New England. He has 6 targets inside the 10. Here for Mac Jones, you can actually get under 252.5 over at FanDuel for minus 110. I got the under here for his passing yards. I don't think Atlanta does enough to, keep this game competitive here today. And I think that would be the reason that Jones would go over the passing yards. Now, you look at the Falcons, they allow a lot of passing yards. They allow the 3rd most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Like, it's a pretty good spot for Mac Jones to just go out there and sling it if he wants to. But he's been under this number in 3 straight games. He's been under this number in 5 of his past 6 games. Jones has been at 30 or fewer passing attempts in 3 of the 4 games in which the Pats have won by more than a touchdown. They're touchdown favorites here, so I expect them to run the football. I don't think Atlanta will do much on offense. And 41 passing attempts and 337 passing yards in his last 2 games. Now, both games were blowouts, but certainly that is a possibility here today. So I don't think Mac Jones is going to go out there and sling it all over the field. I think that what we've seen from New England is going to be the case here on a short week with Damian Harris back, running the football with all of their running backs, using some play action with Hunter Henry, and maybe taking a couple deep shots with Nelson Aguilar or Kendrick Bourne. I like Bourne here today. I think Bourne's the guy that finds the end zone. Over 2.5 is like minus 150, so that's not really ideal. But if you're playing in a same game parlay, some of this stuff does correlate. You could take Kendrick Bourne over 2.5 grabs and maybe take the over on 34.5 receiving yards, which is a number that he has cleared in 5 straight games and 7 of his past 9 games. He's starting to get more play. He's starting to play more snaps, run more routes, and get more targets. And then you got Zacchaeus in there at over 2.5 catches. Not even going to try to bother with his first name there. But 2.5 grabs at minus 128 over at DraftKings. 7 targets in his last game, 10 targets in his last 2. He has 5 grabs for 80 yards over that span. The Pats will be all over Kyle Pitts, all over. One of the best teams in football against tight ends. They're going to double him. They're going to bracket him. They're not going to let him beat them. That's it. This is Bill Belichick. He does this all the time. He takes away the opposing team's best player. So I got to ride with 2.5 catches. Are you kidding me? I got to take that for Zacchaeus. I know it's a heavy New England, as I said off the top of the show. We last night when I gave these picks to George, sparkling boards as always, 3 putts for par, my sir. But there was nothing. Like, we didn't know if Damian Harris is going to play. Now we know, when his rushing prop is around 51. I leaned to the over on that, and it's like 31 or 32 for Romandre Stevenson. I leaned to the over on that one too. We don't have anything for Gallman, but if Gallman showed up at like 30.5 or over 2.5 grabs with no Cordero Patterson, I'd get in on that as well. For those who are here for the hockey, thanks for taking the time to hang out this entire time. 2 more segments. We're going to talk some NHL props, some NHL picks, and I got some parlays for you as well. Keep her locked. Watching Mean Streets here on a Game Plus Network. All right, it is time for some NHL. Georgia Kings with those poverty chrome helmets. Did anybody see the helmets that the Los Angeles Kings were wearing yesterday? Absolutely just atrocious. Those things they were awful. I had a hard time watching them. If I'd known they were going to wear those stupid helmets, I never would have bet on them. And I'm going to keep an eye on this moving forward. I don't care. Like, those helmets, no wonder they didn't score any goals. Like, those helmets were brutal. I know they were copying Vegas. Vegas tried out the gold helmets a little while ago. I don't mind them. I like gold. I am a big silver fan. I like silver, but man, they were hard to look at. They were tough. It could be distracting for a goalie, I suppose. I mean, you're looking at the guy in the helmet and you see yourself. Georgia wasted too much time on that nonsense. Let's get into the shot props. Let's do the shot props here. 11 games on the ice. Broke it all down at Dangle, Bet, Selly, Free Show, Eric Young, and myself. There's a lot that I like, of course, on this board here today. John Harris, they look like Star Wars droids. They look crazy bad. Here's the usual suspects up at the top. I guess the usual one would be Sam Bennett and Darnell Nurse. Bennett's going to play on the top line today with no Alexander Barkov in the lineup, so I like Bennett. I'm always going to like Bennett at 2.5 shots, especially now, in fact, that he's going to get more ice time. He's going to shoot the puck a little bit more. He's going to be leaned on to shoot the puck a little bit more. Pierre-Luc Dubois is my favorite. Man, I love this guy, the way that he's playing hockey right now. Him and Kyle Connor are probably one of the better 1-2 punches in the league right now. I was all over this Jets and Oilers game a couple nights ago. We hit the over 6. We had Pierre-Luc Dubois. We had Darnell Nurse. We had Zach Hyman. We had Leon Draisaitl. All of these guys are absolutely in play again today. Kyle Connor's 3.5 shots plus money. He's in play. He's plus 190 for an assist. Kyle Connor. I think we'll see a lot of offense again. But for Pierre-Luc Dubois, he's cleared 2.5 shots in 6 of his past 8. He's got 15 shots in his last 4 and 19 in his last 5. He's averaging 4.6 shots per game over his last 10 games. 2.5 is actually plus money. And Darnell Nurse has been automatic as well, inside the top 5 in terms of ice time and inside the top 15 in shot attempts as well. So either way, you can go either way with that one. Soon, NHL is going to have some same-game parlays, and we are going to have a lot of fun if they include shot props in their same-game parlays. I saw yesterday a sub over at FTN in our Discord channel says that they do have same-game parlays over at DraftKings, but they don't have shot props just yet. But soon that they will, and we'll be able to take Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, we'll take Nurse, we'll take Hyman, but all these guys are certainly in play today. Boone Jenner is new for me here on this show. I have given him the past couple games. Jenner is a guy that's hit at least 3 shots in 6 straight games. He's got 10 in his last 2. He's got 14 in his last 3. And he's one of those rare forwards that gets about 20 minutes per game. He plays in all situations. He's on the first line. He's on a power play. He's on the PK, and he loves to shoot the puck. So that's plus money as well, 2.5. Chris Kreider's also plus money at 2.5. A tougher matchup against the Leafs, but he's coming in red hot. He's got 12 goals on the season, and he's cleared 2.5 shots in 4 straight games. And the other guy here is Pavel Buchnevich. I think Vladimir Tarasenko is also in play. And then on the other side, you could go to Burns, you can go to Timo Meier, but Buchnevich is plus money, and he has cleared 2.5 shots in 7 of his past 8 games. He was promoted to the top line. He's getting some top power play time. Ryan O'Reilly's his center, and he's a pass-first guy. So you're seeing Jordan Kyrou and Buchnevich rack up all the shots, where Ryan O'Reilly is in the middle of those two. But guys, I got a whole lot more over at FTNBets.com, as I said off the top of the show. $49.99 per month gets you all the picks across every sport, NFL tools, betting tools, Discord channel, shows. It's all there for you. I was going to throw out a couple more, but I think that's all I'll give you. Lindholm is one, Burns I mentioned, but those 6 that I gave you, those are my favorite 6, and a lot of them are at plus money. And Troy Terry is plus money again, like plus 190 for another assist. He only has a point in 15 straight games, and he's cleared 2.5 shots in 3 or 4 straight, and he's plus 140 for 3 shots too. So there's a lot of value. Check out Dangle Bet Sally. We roll through all of it. It's free over at FTNBets.com. I got some NHL picks here next. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back one final time. A few NHL picks here for you. Let's start with just some straight out picks. I got some parlays and some long shots for you a little bit later on. I like the Hurricanes. I know the Ducks have been they've been red hot. Now I think Carolina's like minus 150. Again, the perks of following FTN alerts. When the bet goes in, you get it right away. The best odds, the Discord channel as well. These are from last night. Again, I was just giving these picks to George last night. So Carolina against the Ducks. I know that they've been super hot. They've been awesome at home. They've been home dogs, but I just love this Hurricanes team. Only 2 losses on the season. Frederik Andersen's going to be between the pipes. The Habs can't score any goals, so we got to ride with the Penguins here at minus 139. A couple upsets for you. I like the Sharks here at plus 140. James Reimer is inside the top 5 in save percentage at 5-5. He's getting the start here today. He's played really, really good hockey. He's got a sub 2 goals against average. I think his save percentage is like over 930. He's been rock solid so far this season. The Blues not playing really good. I haven't been overly impressed. I mean, I like Buchnevich shot props, I like Tarasenko, but I don't really like them to win the game. And then the Jets here, this could be an upset. It's a second half of kind of like the rematch. It just played Tuesday in Winnipeg, and Winnipeg had their way. I mean, they've had their way with the Oilers. They've won 5 straight games. They swept them in the playoffs last year. I think the better play is probably the over as we transition, but I will back the Jets at plus 140. But, keep things going here with the picks. Yeah, so some NHL parlays here. So you see I like Winnipeg and Edmonton over 6. I like that as a standalone. You can include Montreal and Pittsburgh under 6 and get that at plus 336. You could also, I have one in the bet tracker where I included Minnesota and Dallas under and Calgary and Buffalo under, and that is 10-1. I think the best parlay on the board is Calgary and Carolina. The Flames in Buffalo to take on the Sabres, plus 172. If you add Pittsburgh in there, you can get that around 5-1. And then I have a puck line parlay, San Jose plus 1.5, New Jersey plus 1.5, and the Rangers plus 1.5. The Devils just beat the Panthers 7-3 last week. Barkov is week to week, so all three of those teams not to lose by more than 1 goal. You can get that at plus 317 over at DraftKings. Tino, I think that's it, right? I may have given you like 100 boards. Put up the comment here on the way out from George. Let's plug this show once more, guys. Dangle, bet, Selly. If you are here for the props and you're here for picks, honestly, I know I kind of rapid fire them through the end of the show, but check out Dangle, bet, Selly. It's an hour-long show, but we run through every game, talk a little season-long in there as well. Appreciate you, George. Appreciate you, Tino. Appreciate everyone hanging out. Good luck on the ice and in the NFL. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one.